Hello children, hope you are doing safe and good at home. Today, Unit 3 prose lesson in celebration of being alive by Dr. Krishnad Barnard. We learn this. In this story, you will understand how gifted are you to live this life. Okay? So celebrating the life, it doesn't mean that you should have everything in your life. Clothing, shelter, food, basic facilities. Apart from that, we have more. We have a lot in our life, right? Not everyone else are getting that. So, you should be celebrating of you being alive. You being alive the next day, today, this moment is the reason for you to celebrate life. That is what Dr. Krishnad Barnard had expressed in this story. Before we start up with the session, there is a warm-up session here. There are several physically challenged people who had lived successful and meaningful life. Here are few personalities who have fought great odds and lived a life of blazing achievements. Let's share what we know about each of them and complete the table below. Name of the personality is given. Nature of challenge and field of achievement. Beethoven, he had an hearing impairment, but still he was a person who achieved in the field of music. Beethoven music are said to be the basic of any music. Like that, there's Demosthenes, Helen Keller, Mariappan Thangavelu, Mozart, John Milton, Sudha Chandran. I know Helen Keller, who is a teacher, but she was deaf and dumb. And Sudha Chandran, she achieved in the field of dancing, but she doesn't have her legs. Okay, so in this way you can go ahead to find out who are the other personalities, what is the challenge they had, and what is the field they had achieved in. Got it? Before we proceed with the lesson, we will go ahead to learn about the author. In page number 69 in your textbook, there is about the author content. Christian Neethling Barnard was born in rural South Africa in 1922 to poor parents as their fourth child. He evinced great interest in his academics and was determined to pursue medicine after a loss of his brother to a cardiac ailment. Just because his brother died because of cardiac ailments, cardiac disease, he decided to become a doctor. He won many scholarships and pursued his higher studies specializing in cardiac surgery. So, after his higher studies, he did specialization in cardiac surgery. As a cardiac surgeon, Barnard focused on congenital and complicated cardiac conditions for which there was no cure at that time. When he became a doctor, for the congenital and complicated cardiac conditions, there was no medicine, it seems. So, he started to research on that. After experimenting with heart transplantation on animals, he performed the first human-to-human heart transplant in the year 1967. So, that time itself he had achieved in transplanting heart from one human to another human. He gained worldwide recognition and went to develop many surgery techniques which are being adopted till date. So, the surgery techniques what all he invented at that time that are being used, that are being adopted even today. Barnard has penned 14 books and 235 scientific articles that have been published in reputed journals. Some of his books are One Life, 50 Ways to a Healthy Heart, The Best Medicine, and The Faith. A pioneer in cardiac surgery, he obtained doctorate in medicine from the University of Cape Town. This was followed by 11 honorary doctorates bestowed upon him by universities all over the world. He has also received 36 international awards. In his late years, he established the Christian Barnard Foundation to serve and promote the cause of underprivileged children throughout the world and died at the age of 78 in the year 2001. So he had also published certain books based on medicine fields, and he had also won a lot of international awards, and he died in the age of 78 in the year 2001. And what is that he wants to tell in this story? We will learn it now. We all know that Dr. Christian Barnard was the first doctor to perform a heart transplant surgery. Here we have an extract of a speech wherein he narrates an experience which has changed his perspective of life altogether. Let's find out which led to such a dramatic transformation. So Christian Barnard is a doctor who had done the first transplant surgery, heart transplant surgery, we all know that. And this extract means this lesson is an part taken from the speech of Dr. Christian Barnard. Dr. Christian Barnard gave a speech somewhere narrating the incident which had changed his life. After experiencing that incident, his perspective, his way of looking at the life has completely changed, it seems. And that narration, out of that whole speech, this experience speech alone is being extracted and it is prescribed as a story for you. Let us find out what led to such dramatic transformation. It was a dramatic transformation after such an experience in his life, it seems. So what led to that dramatic transformation? We will learn it here. Let's get into the story now. More and more, as I near the end of my career as a heart surgeon, my thoughts have turned into the consideration of why people should suffer. Suffering seems so cruelly prevalent in the world today. Do you know that out of 125 million children born this year, 12 million are unlikely to reach the age of 1, and another 6 million will die before the age of 5. And of the rest, many will end up as mental or physical cripples. Okay, so he was thinking when he was arriving at the end of his career, means as he was becoming old and it is the time for him to end his career as a heart surgeon. A consideration came to his mind, it seems. Consideration in this case is worry. A worry came to his mind. Nowadays it is prevalent, very common for people to suffer in this world. And he is also giving you a statistics like out of 125 million children whoever is born that year, 12 million children are unlikely to achieve their age of 1. Before attaining a 1 year itself, they are likely to die. And there are another 6 million who will not achieve the age of 5. Before they reach the age of 5, they will also die. And the rest, as they grow up, they may end up in mental or physical ailments, okay, issues. Why is that happening? My gloomy thoughts probably stem from an accident I had a few years ago. One minute I was crossing the street with my wife after a lovely meal together, and the next minute a car had hit me and knocked me into my wife. She was thrown into another lane and stuck by the car coming from the opposite direction. Okay, so this gloomy thought means this sad thought came to him, probably that has grown in him, because this consideration, this emotion, and all these things will not be there when being a doctor, because a doctor is a person who will be saving life, and while in the process of saving life, these statistics or anything else will not affect them. they will be in much more concern to make sure they can serve as much as life as they can. So this stemming of consideration, worrying about people or about the children who will be dying before attaining the age of 5 or 1, all this consideration came to him because a few years before he and his wife met with an accident, it seems. Just then they were having a meal together and they were walking on the road. He was hit by a car and he flew and hit his wife, and his wife was thrown into the next opposite road where the car that came from the opposite direction hit her again. Okay, that was a major accident he had experienced. During the next few days in the hospital, I experienced not only agony and fear but also anger. I could not understand why my wife and I had to suffer. I had 11 broken ribs and perforated lung. My wife had a badly fractured shoulder. Over and over, I asked myself, why should this happen to us? I had work to do. After all, there were patients waiting for me to operate on them. My wife had a young baby who needed her care. Okay, so when this accident happened, one question was lingering on his mind, it seems. One question never left his mind. That question was, why this happened to me? Why this accident happened to me? Why is that me and my wife should undergo this suffering? Because he is a person, he is a cardiac surgeon, and many people are there who are waiting for him to come and attend them. And this couple, the doctor couple, had a baby who was very young, and the baby needed the mother's care. But the situation is, the doctor had 11 broken ribs and a perforated lung. Okay, lung has to be removed from his body, and 11 broken ribs have been there. Okay, and his wife had a fracture in the shoulder. Okay, so in this situation, this question never left his mind. Why should we suffer? Why is this suffering coming to me? That question was there on his mind. My father, had he still been alive, would have said, my son, it's God's will. That's the way God tests you. Suffering ennobles you, makes you a better person. Okay, so he is recollecting. If at all my father is alive today, he would have told these words. My son, this is the way God is testing you. Are you loyal or not? So, whenever you undergo a suffering, you will become a better person. That will ennoble you. You will become a nobler person. That is why God is testing you. If at all my father was there, he would tell this. But as a doctor, I see nothing noble in patients thrashing around in a sweat-soaked bed, mind clogged in agony. Nor can I see any nobility in the crying of a lonely child in the ward at night. But his father is an old person who is an experienced person, might be another person who believes in God or something. But this doctor, being an educated person, being a person who had seen flesh and blood in the profession, he is seeing nothing noble in a patient thrashing around in a sweat-soaked bed. He is just thrashed. He is just pushed into a bed. If it is sweating, if it is uncomfortable, he cannot move out from the bed. It is a sweat-soaked bed. Mind clogged in agony, anger. Mind is full of anger. No, nothing nobility can be seen over there. Okay, when a lonely child, an young child who is in need of a mother's care is crying over there all night, asking for the mother to come and attend it. And what is the nobility can be seen over there? If his father is telling, God is testing you, you will become noble after undergoing suffering, And what is the nobility being tested here? A lonely child being crying all night, and me being a doctor who has patients to attend, and I'm lying into a sweat soaked bed, and my mind is full of anger and everything. What is nobility here? What is noble here? What is great? What is good? That question is lingering in his mind. In those days, they didn't have sophisticated heart surgery. I have always found the suffering of children particularly heartbreaking, especially because of their total trust in doctors and nurses. They believe you are going to help them. If you can't, they accept their fate. They go through multi-lating surgery, and afterward they don't complain. Okay, so in those days, means when he was a doctor, when he was a heart surgeon, there was no sophisticated heart surgery. Nowadays heart surgery is very easy, just like that open heart surgeries happen, right? In 24 hours, in 48 hours, you can reach home, you can go home. Like that, the open heart surgeries are very common right now, nowadays. But 1967 is the day when he transplanted his heart from human to human. In those days, sophisticated heart surgery was not possible at all. Every people were suffering, and he found it heartbreaking to see a child being suffering of heart transplantation of or heart problems. Okay, a child, if at all he is operating on a child, he found it heartbreaking. Okay, and the people who undergo the surgery or the family members, they just blindly trust the doctors and the nurses. Okay, so if at all everything goes well, it goes well. If something happens, they accept it as a fate and they move on. That is how it is all going on. Okay, afterwards they don't complain, they don't generally complain about the surgery. One morning, several years ago, I witnessed what I call the Grand Prix of Cape Town's Red Cross Children's Hospital. It opened my eyes to the fact that I was missing something in all my thinking about suffering. Something basic that was full of solace for me. Okay? One morning, after several years, one morning, he witnessed what I called a Grand Prix of Cape Town's Red Cross Children's Hospital. Okay, so he was there in Cape Town's Red Cross Children's Hospital, and this Grand Prix, he can tell, means a grand car race kind of thing. Okay, a grand car race is arranged, that race track is ready, that is said to be Grand Prix kind. Okay, and he is telling in Cape Town's Red Cross Children Hospital, he had witnessed a Grand Prix. That incident opened his eyes, it seems. Okay, something full of solace for me, something gave me an eye-opening experience. That is what he is telling. What happened there that morning was that a nurse had left a breakfast trolley unattended, and very soon this trolley was commanded by an intrepid crew of two and a driver and a mechanic. Okay, so what happened? In that Cape Town's Red Cross Children Hospital, this is happening, it seems. He is narrating the incident now. Already I have told you, this lesson is a part of the speech of Dr. Christian Barnard. He is narrating which he stated that had changed his life. In that, the first experience is this. In Cape Town is the state's name. Okay, in Cape Town there is a Red Cross hospital, children hospital. In that hospital he is witnessing, he is seeing this incident. Morning, there is a nurse who had left the breakfast trolley, means the nurse will keep the breakfast plate on that, and she will pull the trolley. Okay, that trolley with the breakfast is left unattended without anybody, it is just lying over there. Soon, two people took over that trolley, a driver and a mechanic. The mechanic provided motor power by galloping along behind the trolley with his head down, while the driver, seated on the mower deck, held on with one hand and steered by scraping his foot on the floor. The choice of roles was easy because the mechanic was totally blind and the driver had only one arm. See, look at the picture. This is the kind of a trolley, the breakfast trolley. It was left unattended by the nurse. Okay, and what happened was this driver and the mechanic, they both took in charge of this. The mechanic provided motor power by galloping along the behind trolley with his head down, while the driver, seated on the mower deck, held on with one hand and steered by scraping his foot on the floor. The choice of the roles was easy because the mechanic was totally blind and the driver had only one arm. Okay, so in this picture it is given wrong. Actually, the one hand person is the driver, right? And the mechanic is totally blind. So the mechanic, the yellow color shirt, should be actually pushing this trolley, and this one armed person should be sitting on the lower deck to ride the trolley. Okay, so you can imagine in the opposite change roles. Okay, so the mechanic, being blind, he started pushing this trolley, and this driver, having only one arm, he started to sit on the mower deck, the lower deck of this trolley, and he started to scroll his leg so that the movement will be faster. They put on quite a show that day, judging by the laughter and shouts of encouragement from the rest of the patients. It was much a better entertainment than anything anyone puts on at the Indianapolis 500 car race. There was a grand finale of scattered plates and silverware before the nurse and the ward sister caught up with them, scolded them, and put them back to bed. Okay, so they put a quite a good show, it seems like. All of a sudden there are two patients who are attending this breakfast trolley, and one is being blind, one is having only one arm, and they are pushing this trolley all together, cooperating with each other, and all the patients around are cheering and clapping. All this like when class is unattended, and the children taking advantage of the teacher's absence in the class. You can very well relate to it, right? Yes, if the teacher is not there, what all will you do? One person will be there in the door spying if the teacher is coming or not. The others will go ahead to play whatever you want inside the classroom. Yes, that will be a very good moment for you, right? So there will be at least 2 or 3 people who will put up a very good show inside the classroom, and that time it will be a talk of your class. Of course, right? Like that, these two people, when the nurses were not there, when the breakfast trolley is unattended by the nurse, these two people took over the breakfast trolley, and all the patients were cheering. They were having a very, very good fun time. And at the end, those silver plates were scattered, and it was all falling down. And hearing that noise, the nurses came back, caught them, and put them back to bed. At that time, he was seeing all this. He is comparing like 500 cars in a racetrack, giving such a huge show. Cannot be even compared with such a show, it seems. Okay, already he called this as a Grand Prix, which is the car race that is held on a huge manner. Okay, and he is comparing that Grand Prix to this breakfast table scene. Okay, breakfast table carrying scene. And he is also comparing now, even if it is 500 cars on the racetrack, that can't be compared to these people who are putting up a great show over there with a breakfast trolley. Okay, and they are back to bed now. Let me tell you about these two. These two. The mechanic was all of 7 years old. One night, when his mother and father were drunk, his mother threw a lantern at his father, missed at the lantern, broke over the child's head and shoulders. He suffered severe third grade degree burns on the upper part of his body and lost both his eyes. At that time, the Grand Prix, he was a waking horror, which was disfigured face and a long flap of skin hanging from the side of his neck to the body. Okay, so what happens? He is now telling you about these two people. This mechanic is only 7 years old, it seems. Once his father and mother were drunk together, and the mother threw a lantern, this kerosene lamp will be there. Okay, she threw the lantern onto this father to hit him, it seems. Lantern missed the father and fell on this boy's head. Okay, so he experienced third degree burns. Third degree burns means severe burns, like the deep layer of the skin is burnt. Like that, he had experienced, and even that time when he was riding this breakfast trolley, his face was completely disfigured in the sense it was completely damaged. A long flap of skin, okay, skin was hanging, like it is not a tightened skin as we are having, because it is burnt. The skin got loosened and it was hanging, it is hanging on from the side of his neck to his body. Okay, that is the way he was, but he was enjoying playing that trolley. As a wound healed around his neck, his lower jaw became gripped in the mass of fibrous tissue. The only way this little boy could open his mouth was to raise his head. When I stopped by to see him after the race, he said, "You know, we won," and he was laughing. Okay, the wound was healing, it seems. The burnt skin was getting healing, okay, and at that time, his the jaw means the mouth, lower part of the mouth. Okay, the lower jaw become gripped in the mass of fibrous tissue. The tissue became very rigid and it was unable to move. So this boy, if at all he wants to open his mouth, he has to lift his head so that this fibrous tissue will pull the jaw below. That is the only way he can open his mouth, it seems. Okay, and at that time when the doctor is seeing him with all the pittiness in his mind, this boy was telling the doctor, it seems, you know, we won the game between the nurse and the these two boys. He is telling we won the game, and he was laughing, it seems. The trolley's driver I knew better. A few years earlier, I had successfully closed a hole in his heart. He had returned to the hospital because he had a malignant tumor of the bone. A few days before the race, his shoulder and arm were amputated. There was little hope of his recovery. After a Grand Prix, he proudly informed me that the trolley's wheels were not properly oiled, but he was a good driver and he had full confidence in the mechanic. Got it? So this is a story about the driver. A few years earlier, this same doctor, Dr. Christian Barnard, had closed a hole in his heart successfully, and after a few days, there is a tumor in his bone. And because of that, his shoulder and arm were amputated, removed. Okay, and there was a little hope of recovery. After removing the shoulder and arm also, there was a little chance that he would survive. But this person, after finishing the trolley, the Grand Prix, he came to the doctor and he told, it seems, the trolley's wheels were not oiled properly, because he being a mechanic, and he is telling him, I know how to drive even if the mechanics are not doing their job properly. Like that, he is showing up his confidence on being the best driver. Okay. Suddenly, I realized that these two children had given me a profound lesson in getting on with the business of living. Because of the business of living is joy in the real sense of the word, not just something for pleasure, amusement, and recreation. The business of living is the celebration of being alive. That is when doctor got a profound lesson, a great lesson, a big lesson. Okay, a lesson that is for the life. What is that? Living is a business, and that business should have a real sense of the world. Means when you are living, pleasure, amusement, recreation, wants, needs, disgrace, respect, that, this, what all we expect from others, right? Are we giving to them? Are we giving them respect? Are we giving others the respect they deserve? Are we providing everything what others are expecting? Without even knowing that, we go ahead to expect so many things from others, from the parents, from the teachers, from the school, from the friends, sisters, brothers, whomever we know in this world. We are expecting so much, and when we are denied that opportunity, or when we are denied what we have asked for, when we are denied what is expected, and that is when we say, oh my god, what is this life? I don't like this life at all. I like to live. But that is not the thing. This driver, mechanic who had lost their shoulder, arm, who had undergone this third-degree burn, look at the way they look at the life. With all confidence, they are playing over there. They are enjoying their moment in life. So that is when the doctor realized that in life, being alive itself is a celebration. You being alive, this moment is a celebration moment for you, because luckily you are breathing today. Luckily you are hearing this lesson today. This moment you are hearing this. This moment you are able to understand something. This moment you are able to do your activity. The next moment, who knows? Today it's me, tomorrow it's you, kind of a situation is going on. And even today, those 10 lakh people who have died all over the world because of corona, do you think it is all just like that happening? It is the fate of others? No. We don't know. Might be. It should not happen, but still, might be. Somebody who is known to you, or somebody who is near to you, can be in that list of 10 lakh the next day, next moment. Just the next moment. Maybe it's me, maybe it's you. So, just celebrate the moment you are alive. You are alive now. You are enjoying this moment. For that very feeling, you should celebrate your life. Stop expecting. Reduce your expectation. That is what is the life teaching you. I had been looking at the suffering from the wrong end. You don't become a better person because you are suffering, but you become a better person because you have experienced suffering. That is what his father's words were. Yes, when you suffer, you will become a noble person. Means you don't become a better person because you are suffering. The suffering is there, so you become a better person. No. The experience what you gain from that suffering makes you a better person. We can't appreciate light if we haven't known darkness, nor we can appreciate warmth if we have never suffered cold. These children showed me that it's not what you have lost those important. What is important is what you have left with. Got it? So this situation is telling us a lot more about this, right? When you don't have school, you realize the importance of school. When you don't meet the teachers in person, you realize the importance of being in the class and listening in the class. Hope you realize that. Yes. And you realize the importance of electricity, internet, whatever facilities we have acquired now is helping us now. Yes. So you should be thankful for what you have. You should not be worrying or regretting or going ahead to grumble on what you don't have. Life is not about what you have lost, but you are what is left with you still in this moment is what is life all about. That is what you have to celebrate in life. Got it? And this is what is the experience Christian Barnard is sharing with you and giving you a great lesson like celebrate the moment of being alive in your life. So here are the glossaries. Okay, so the glossaries you can go through for your synonyms and antonyms. Synonyms you can go through this. Antonyms you have to be prepared with the opposite words of these synonyms. The question and answers in page number 70. I will send you the notes, and also for the in-text questions I will send you the notes, and also for the paragraph questions. Okay, and vocabulary exercises, there is nothing but very easy ones, so you can go through them. And in this lesson, whatever is there in this lesson, what is the meaning, you can go ahead to write over there in this vocabulary exercises. Got it? And there are something called illustrative sentences. Okay, there are words that are same in pronunciation but different in spelling. You can go ahead to explore these 10 set of words. Okay, after that we will discuss about the unit 1 and 2 vocabulary exercises and writing skills in your live class session. Thank you, children. Meet you again.